The next area is the name section. To access the individual field values, click on the name section to highlight it and then click Edit. Let's look at these values. The first is the active from date, and this defines from which date the name you see here will be seen as the active one. This ties into other areas of importance which we will discuss later. Next we have the name value, and this consists of 3 name lines: name 1, name 2 and name 3. Your entity name can span all 3 name lines. This is useful if your entity name is exceptionally long for some reason. The remaining fields are mostly used to customize document content. This includes values like greeting text, sign-off text, and so on. When these values have been added to a name entry, it's quite simple to pull this information into your templates as a letter code. When a document is generated, it will be customized according to the entries made here. First, we have the official name field. This is the official or recorded name of a company or institution and is mainly used in official documents. An example could be the name University of Stockholm. The official name for this entry is different though. The official name we use in forms or documents are the Board of Trustees of the University of Stockholm. The greeting text allows us to have customized greeting when a document is generated. Very much the same for the sign-off text field. The title is used to enter the title of the person to whom the correspondence is to be addressed. This could be as CEO or Director of Research and so on. And the last field is the attention field, which we use if we have a person at the company that is our main contact. Notice that the delete button on both names and address is grayed out. The deletion option is not available. Deleting entries can only be done through a new area we will discuss next. This area is known as the name history area. Name history is where changes and updates to the name or address are stored. To access the name history window, click on the name history option listed under the basic page button. This screen allows us to see the relationship between names and addresses that have been replaced with new values. The start date and end date of the individual entry shows when a certain name or address entry was the active one. Also note that you can include these log entries when searching in NameFind by ticking the Include Log Entries in Search tick box. Let's move on to affecting the name or addresses. Take note that everything I'm about to discuss will be name entry related, but all steps applies to the address entries as well. Affecting a name or address can be done in one of 2 ways. You can either add a new name version or edit the existing name entry. The difference here is important as this will affect the name entries shown on your case. If you want an in-depth explanation detailing the difference between add and edit, please see the Case Management Parties page videos. We add a name entry by selecting the name area and then clicking Add. Choose Name Information from the pop-up. A confirmation window will appear asking if we want to add instead of edit. Click Yes. Let's stop here a moment and look at the rules when adding a name instead of editing. When a name is added, the existing names connected to cases in Patricia are not updated or changed in any way. The data from the previously used name is retained in each record as we are adding a new entry and not editing an existing one. When I say an entry, I mean the following. In previous videos we mentioned that you can have multiple names and address versions per name entry. The latest entry will be marked as current and this is the one you see here. Clicking Add creates a new entry. This is the preferred way of handling changes, as you are assured that no case data will be negatively affected. Next, you can edit a name or address by highlighting it and then clicking the Edit button. Take note that you are then, in effect, editing that entry and thus affecting all cases linked to that name and address version. This is not recommended. One scenario where this might be useful is if a mistake has been made in the entry and it needs to be corrected, but use this feature sparingly. If you are a super user, then it is advisable to create a security group exclusively for handling name or address updates, and only this group then will be able to add or edit entries. Let's move on to addresses. Now, addresses in Patricia works exactly the same as name entries when it comes to adding or editing. Let's look a closer look at the details. I will select my address entry and then click Add. Choose Address Information and then Yes on the prompt. The new name address window will appear. The first field is the address type. What type of an address is this that we are adding? In Patricia, we can have multiple address types. This makes sense because we want to keep track of both a postal address and a physical address of a company. I will set this to be the physical address entry. Next, we define if this is to be the default address using the default address tick box. This setting comes into play when we add the name onto our case, and this determines which address will be linked to the case. We are adding a physical address, so I do not want to set this as the default address. I already have an office address, and this is my default entry that I want on the case. Then we have the actual address details shown in the fields called mailing address, city, zip, region, and postal code. This is followed by the country, which is the country where this entity is located. Next, we set our language preferences, which defines the language to use for correspondence when sending to the address. When generating a document or forms, the language set on the name number added to the parties of the case is selected for printing. The physical address is used when the mailing address is a postal type entry. We then have specific contact information listed like telephone number, fax number, and email address details. The last three entries are quite important as this affects how and which letters will be generated. The correspondence method sets how we are to send correspondence to this address. Should it be via email or via hard copy letter? The header footer sets a specific header or footer for this name record. And the preferred correspondence style allows us to customize the format of the letter to be name entry specific. Let me now save these changes. Take note of a change that occurred under the basic page button. We just added a physical address, and this has been added as an available address under the basic page. I can now choose which address I want to view by clicking on it. If I want to view the office address of the client, I click on office address. If I want to view the physical address, I click on physical address.